Coach, what was your biggest takeaway coming out of week one as you now get ready to play Wagner?
Absolutely. I think the biggest takeaway is that when we go out and perform with good effort and consistency from an execution standpoint, we've got a chance to be a pretty good offense. Right now, our biggest points of improvement are in consistency in our effort and execution. I think we showed the ability to move the football against a very good Notre Dame defense. But at the end of the day, we weren't able to finish drives and score points as a result of a lack of effort and consistency and execution. So I think those are obviously the two big takeaways that we've got to go to work on. We've got to do a great job of becoming consistent in those areas.
When you saw that the team could control the ball and move the ball downfield, though the frustration of not getting any points out of it, though showing that they do know how to do that part of the game?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, particularly, some of those early drives in the game where we got in a good rhythm and we were clicking down the field, 6, 7, 8, 9 yards a play. That's really encouraging. And it shows, the ability to do some things on a level that are going to be really, really good. And I think we've got to keep encouraging our guys, having a positive mindset, expecting good things to happen is something that we've been talking about since I arrived in January. And, so there are some positive things on tape to build off of without a question. But obviously there are a lot of things that we're going hard at coaching in order to create that effort and consistency that'll lead to scoring at the end of drives.
So for week two, how important is it to get out and do well early against Wagner?
No question. We have to get off and get going and finish drives early, and continue to show that we are improving and progressing like we need to moving forward.
And finally, how impressed were you with Brandon? It was really the first look that we got of him. You've seen him quite a bit. What was your impressions?
Quite honestly, it was not a surprise to me the way he played, with his effort and his ability to make plays. He's a special young man. Obviously a very talented player and a guy that we need to make sure that we're using in multiple ways.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Wags.
Coach C, good to see you.
Good to see you, sir.
So when you look at the offense as a whole and the drives that you were not able to sustain things and, you got a few first downs, but then it stalled, what do you feel happened? What were the breakdowns?
Exactly what we've been discussing. It's not competing with the level of effort as to our standard, and then missed assignments, miscues. One of the things that we've discussed throughout camp is that we're very close, just a few inches of leverage here or there, or the correct step here or there, from being a very consistent offense and a very productive offense. And I think what you saw on Saturday was a snapshot of where we're at right now, in that we cannot consistently go and execute, and we've got to continue to attack that and get better in those areas. And I think you're going to see that as we move forward through the season, because these guys want to. Yesterday's practice was exactly what it needed to be from a response standpoint from everyone involved. Our coaches, our players. I'm very encouraged, very excited about the direction we're heading. They came out and they attacked the day and went to work on these things that we're discussing. Attention to detail and execution and consistent effort, elite effort. And they did a very good job of that. But as I told them, that was good. But I'm more concerned about the next day and what we're going to do moving forward as we stack days. That's the important thing for us right now, because again, the key word for us is consistency.
So Coach Newberry thought there were some certain plays where you gain 4 or 5 yards where it could tell that, against a different team, maybe not with the same caliber athletes, guys who can make up for mistakes, that those could be longer gains. Are you seeing that? Did you see that on film, Coach? And
Absolutely.
Maybe explain how?
Yeah, Wags, we're a step away from having several explosive plays. And I think as the field is more level, you're going to see that more. And then also there's, everything that we do is precision based. And if, some of our execution is more on point, even versus Notre Dame, you're going to see those plays gain more yardage as well.
So there were two play action passes that had guys running wide open, well behind the defense, the coverage. In both cases, really, it was pressure that derailed those. Ty had to step up into the pocket on the one that he threw. Now, granted, that was also two receivers being in the wrong. Somebody ran a wrong route. But then the second one where Amin got behind the secondary again, that was, Ty got hit as he's trying to unload. How important is it to try to fix those, protection issues so that you can hit those long passes?
Obviously extremely important. And we went right at it yesterday. Not that we haven't been working on it, but I also think that, there's no better teaching experience than a real game. When you're in practice and you're stressing, the coaching isn't any different. It's not like we had an epiphany coming out of Saturday. We've been coaching what we need to in order to set our guys up for success. But the sense of urgency and the effort that's required to go make that block, when you get in a game against Notre Dame, it becomes very evident the type of effort and fundamental execution that's required. So again, kind of going back to what I said a moment ago, that's what was so encouraging about yesterday's practice is you can tell it hit home. These young men understand what we need to do in order to get better, and they went out there and yesterday and attacked it. And now the goal is to go out today and attack it again and build that consistency that's so important. So, we're absolutely working very hard on our ability to protect, which, pass protection is about feet and effort, getting in a good position, but then moving your feet to maintain the block, which goes back to great effort.
So obviously you're also the offensive line coach along with Coach Ingram. How would you rate the offensive line's performance overall?
We have to get much better. There's no question about it. Everyone in our room understands that. And, it all starts up front.
I'll pass it back to Scott or whomever else might be on.
Pete Medhurst.
Coach, the split backs with both Alex and Daba and then your full house power package seem to, for what you're able to do with it, get you decent production. How would you evaluate those two formations in the run game in particular?
Sure, absolutely. Well, they were very productive for us on Saturday. And, we're always looking at assessing our personnel and trying to use, as we've discussed before, identify the guys that can help us, who are better players and how can we get them packaged and on the field at the same time. And obviously Alex and Dava are both very good players for us. So it was an easy way for us to get them on the field at the same time and continue, to be who we are from a personality standpoint and identity standpoint. So, and then we always want to be a physical team. So, getting in a full house backfield, the OT and coming right downhill, these are identity things, that we talk about a lot. We want to have, a very clear identity. We want to be a physical football team that can run the football, but also incorporate other components as well. So those two packages, obviously we're pleased with the production. We want to continue to get better at it so that the production grows. That's for sure.
You don't get exhibition games. You don't get to play against players, obviously the caliber of Lofau and, Watts coming up from the secondary and the linebacker play. But how to have something on tape now that you and your coaches can go back and teach with, how good is that to have now over the next 2 weeks?
It's fantastic. It is absolutely critical. It's been said a lot through my career, from really experienced coaches. Typically teams make their most improvement between game 1 and game 2 because you have that tape, you have that evidence, and we say all the time, your film's your resume. So, that those guys know where we're at, hard, fast, and they also see all the good things and the positive things, encouraging things that we can do when we are consistent with our effort and our execution. Because when we moved the ball down the field. And so there are a lot of positive things at play to encourage us. And then obviously you identify the things that need to get better. And the motivation is there for sure after watching the tape.
Coach New mentioned on Monday about, again, after a performance like that, hey, all jobs are open and should be competed for. How do you discern between players that are competing harder and the ones maybe that are competing with panic right now, and trying to get them not to compete with panic, but just to compete harder?
No, that's a great question. And I think you do that through continued reps at practice. You keep going at them, you put them in stressful situations in practice. You talk them through it off the field as well, as you're watching tape. Because again, it kind of goes back to your question a moment ago about games, right? There's no substitute for game experience. And we had several guys that were playing really in their first college football game as far as significant reps. And some of that showed, so the more experience they have, the more opportunity we have at practice to put them in stressful situations from a practice standpoint, to where they realize that they're capable of overcoming any circumstance. And that's that confidence that comes through continued practice and obviously continued games.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Coach, when Connor McMahon's on his game, what does he bring to your offense?
Well, when Connor's on his game, he's a very good football player. He's athletic, he's long. He is what you're looking for as an offensive tackle for sure. And so absolutely brings a lot to the table. And as a guy that we're counting on to continue to improve and be a great player for us.
While Pete didn't call his name a lot on Saturday, Jaden Umbarger, one of those types of players through his career at the Naval Academy, has made plays, but probably the best plays I would imagine he makes are ones that most people don't see with his blocking.
No question. He is an outstanding blocker. Coach Okadis would probably suggest that he might be the best blocker in the room, although that might be up for argument with the rest of the guys. But he is an incredibly selfless player. He's a great leader. He's a quiet leader, but he leads by example. And he's doing a really great job for us right now. And we want to continue to include him and get him involved in our system and what we're doing.
And how physical will you get late this week with the team, knowing that it's a bye week and that they'll have the weekend off?
We're gonna have some contact here today and tomorrow for sure. It's still early in the season. Obviously, we're always going to be intelligent about what we're doing and what we're asking of our guys here. But we are early in the season, and the only way that we're going to be able to correct these things that we're talking about from a consistency standpoint is to go practice football. So we're going to absolutely have some contact over the next couple of days, and then we'll see where we're at. I'm sure Coach Newberry has a plan, as far as later in the week.
And finally, being up in the booth, the perspective you get there on the game, do you pretty much see what you see? I mean, does the tape really have to tell you more, or do you, from that position, see it?
I honestly had a very clear take on the game as soon as it was over. The things that were really encouraging were really encouraging. You saw that in the moment, and then the things that we needed to improve on were evident as well, and in fact, we talked about it at halftime. There was, truthfully, very little additional, there was an amount for sure. I don't want to minimize that, but there was a lot of the things that we discussed at halftime that we needed to do better, were the same things that we discussed at the end of the game. So, it is obviously, it's absolutely very helpful to be up there so you can see the whole picture, and give guys immediate feedback. So hopefully you're making immediate adjustments, right?
Thanks.
Yep.
Wags.
Coach, I think one of the Notre Dame defenders mentioned that Navy came out in a formation that Notre Dame had not seen on tape or practice for. And obviously it would be hard to see it on tape if you haven't been the offensive coordinator at Navy, but maybe they're talking about on Kennesaw tape. But do you feel like the you did some things formationally that did, help you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we had him chasing throughout the first half, our formations, and that was very intentional. We had a very good bead on how they wanted to defend us and line up. In fact, there was nothing they did that we hadn't prepared for, or shown our guys. So to that point, we were able to do some things that helped us schematically, which led to some of those drives, obviously. And ultimately, it's like I told the guys at halftime, and then after the game, the only people that, even with all the athleticism that was out there on the field on the Notre Dame side, the majority of the issue was our execution. We were really our own worst enemy. It really wasn't as much about Notre Dame at times. In fact, more times than not, it was consistency and effort and execution that would have kept drives going, we're not expecting to rip off a 50, 60, 80-yard run against athletes like Notre Dame has, but we can stay on schedule and we can do some things in a way from an execution standpoint that allow us to sustain drives and score points.
Coach Newberry had indicated that Ty sort of separated himself in the final weeks leading up to the opener, and he got the call and played, the entire way. You had talked about possibly playing two quarterbacks, which he did. The other quarterback was Xavier Arline.
Right.
Now, granted, that was only a couple snaps when Ty went out with an injury, but Xavier obviously was part of the game plan in other ways. But Blake, do you still anticipate trying to get him a look?
No question. No question. Blake's still very much in the mix, and everything on a day in, day out basis, quite honestly, from a playing time standpoint, has always been wide open. Of course, you had to get to a place going into the first game where you had an established lineup, but quite honestly, we're competing every day, and as we move forward through the season, Blake is absolutely going to have opportunities. He continues to get opportunities, and I would hope that we see him play for us in games. That's our goal. We want to put the best players out there, and Blake understands that he's got to become more consistent in practice in order to do that, and I feel confident that he will.
So I'll take a little of the blame for this. I wrote nonstop since spring about the quick passing game elements being introduced, and obviously we're probably waiting to see that, and we really did not see much of the quick passing game. The passes that were thrown were primarily the play action from the Navy's always possessed. But your thoughts? I mean, it sounded like Coach Newberry would have gotten to that a little more as the game went on. Well, you and Coach Newberry would have gotten to that as the game went along, but then score kind of changed the whole game plan.
Yes, I think, everything about how the game progressed limited some of that opportunity. We are still absolutely committed to doing what we need to offensively to win football games, which includes throwing the football. We've said from early on, there's a sweet spot in there for us that could be anywhere from, 8 to 15 throws a game right now as we continue to move forward. The quick passing game is an absolute priority for us that we're going to continue to go work hard on, and find opportunity to do that to help us. Those early drives in the game, where we're running the football and controlling the clock and keeping their offense off the field, based on the opponent, it all goes back to what's going to help us win that football game, based on the opponent we're playing. And, when you're moving the ball down the field, controlling the clock like we were, it makes it difficult at times to deviate from that in that game versus that opponent. But there's absolutely no question that we want to do the things that we work so hard on in practice, because this is the offensive package that we have.
And I asked about Ty, how do you feel he played as far as managing the game and, reading the defenses, getting you into the right play, getting the ball where it should be?
I think Ty is just like the rest of our offense. At times he executed very well, but he was inconsistent, and that's not to point the finger at Ty. It's our entire offense right now. But I think he did. I think he played well. I think we all have a lot of improving to do.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Got a couple minutes left. Pete.
Coach, now that you've had a chance to have a game with the new timing rules, obviously, as an offense, you all would love to have the ball 40 minutes a game if you can.
Sure.
Does that seem even more achievable now with the timing rules,
Yeah.
now having lived it for a game?
Yeah, I think we held it for 33 minutes in that game, and the game goes fast now. You have to make calls much quicker, and the game itself obviously goes much faster. So, I think that makes it even more important to control the football, to control the clock and time of possession for us. So absolutely.
No, just like with players, competitive coaches, that pride gets stung a little bit. But how do you guard against overreaction for yourself, even, and your staff after a game like that on Saturday?
Well, it's the standard is the standard, and you have to inspire, and encourage and correct. And so, as long as you're going out there and being consistent, and that's the huge thing about, coaching, about anything really, is being consistent in your actions. Because if it looks like a knee-jerk reaction, then it doesn't look genuine. So, the thing is we have been consistent in how we're coaching. The standard has been the standard. We have, from day one, going back all the way really to January with winter conditioning, and then obviously through spring and in through the summer till now. Our expectations haven't changed, and the way we go and coach has not changed either. So we're going to continue to work hard and push our guys to be the best they can be, and encourage them and do everything that you need to along the way to coach at a high level.
I mean, having done this for a while, does that get any easier though after a game like that?
As far as, I want to make sure I'm understanding your question. No, I mean, I'm excited about where we're at right now. I really am, because I think we have a legitimate opportunity to get better. To, now that it's on tape, the guys see, hey, this is what coach has been talking about. This
Right.
is evidence that if we'll go do the, and all the bright spots, hey, look what we did. We played hard, we executed well, and we were rewarded for it. And the moments that we didn't, it was the opposite. So it's really easy to go coach in that circumstance, because everything that you've been communicating, there's evidence that, hey, it works if we go do it like we're asked to, and what, with that level of effort and execution. And then when we choose not to, or, we're not as successful. And so really, I guess, to answer your question, it's easy to go coach after these games. Sure. When you don't play well, because the evidence is right there for you. And we have great kids who want to do well and are doing what we ask them. But, coaching is inspiring and pushing guys past their perceived limits at times. And we're still working through that.